Hey everybody, it's Dr. Josh Satterley from Clinic Gym Radio, and I am super excited today because we got an incredible episode today with an incredible guest, Dr. Todd Pickman. Todd, how are you today?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Now, Todd is basically single-handedly changing the world we know of chiropractic and fitness, and he's running it from a secretive mountain base located in Boise, Idaho, right, or near Boise.
Yep.
He is doing exactly what I think is the future of chiropractic. Can you give everybody kind of a snapshot of your company and what you guys do, Todd?
Man, I'll do it in 10,000 words or less. How's that? So what we're doing is been practicing for 15 years, and a couple years back, we just always knew something was missing in practice. We wanted to put corrective exercise, functional movement alongside with our clinical model. We've done that. We've done it very successfully. We had doctors hitting us up all the time, flying in from all over the country, wanting to see what we were doing. So it wasn't really by plan, but we put together a full program where we teach what we're doing, and it's being duplicated in now almost 70 clinics throughout the world.
That's awesome, man. So you got 70 chiros docs who are basically changing their life, and in doing so, changing the lives of many more patients, right?
That's the plan, is to get this whole reach of what we're doing out here in Meridian, Idaho, which is right next to Boise, and where we're helping a ton of people, but we're trying to spread this so that, it can grow exponentially.
That's awesome, man. Now, can you kind of take us back? Like, this isn't, I know a little bit about your history, but obviously want to give the listeners a lot more. This wasn't always your approach, right? I mean, you started out pretty much as a kind of traditional chiropractic clinic up there in Meridian, and then you expanded. Can you kind of give us a little backstory?
Well, so technically, back in 2003, I graduated chiropractic school in Los Angeles. I went to Cleveland, and then I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I practiced for 9.5 years. And I moved there to work with a mentor of mine that taught at the Gonstead seminars. And so I went out, joined this very up-and-coming clinic in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We built it up. It was one of the biggest clinics in the whole state of New Mexico, but it was primarily a straight Gonstead clinic. So we were checking and adjusting people, no rehab. That was it. We did that for several years. And then from there, I started getting curious about what else I could add to my whole clinical approach to further help my patients. And so that's when I found out about posture correction, curve correction, chiropractic biophysics, got super into that, learned that, ended up moving to Idaho to partner at the Ideal Spine Health Center, which also had the CBP Doctor Training Institute, where they were hosting seminars. So I took part in that, helped out with that for about a year, realized there was still something missing in our clinical model. I still had a little bit of a different vision. And so my wife and I, we moved to the other side of town, started our own clinic called Gonstead Spine and Wellness. And we were able to add basically a full gym into our practice. And we didn't have the protocols in place when we added it. We had this opportunity to add more square footage to a already pretty big clinic. So now we're at 5,300 square feet. And we now have just amazing processes and procedures and protocols that we've put into place. And there's a lot of story that fills that in, but that's where we're at right now. And it's rocking and rolling, up and running. We have a very unique clinical model. Patients seek us out from all over. And I really enjoy practicing every day.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, when you say we have systems and protocols and whatnot, that's usually the result of getting punched in the face a few times by when those things go awry, right? Like that's why systems usually get developed. So I'm sure you told us the clean version of it, the easy street version, but I'm sure you worked your butt off to get here. So congratulations.
It's well, thank you. It's like that saying of building the plane as you're flying it. And that's exactly what we did. Is we were flying and we were plummeting to the earth at a couple hundred miles an hour, and we were trying to build this thing so we could save our lives, and we did. And that's because what happened is about I don't know, like 8-9 months into practice, we had already built this clinic, huge build out, 3,200 square feet about. And then our landlord said, hey, you guys have an opportunity to take on 2,000 more square feet and either do it now or forever hold your peace. And so we said, okay, we'll do it. And so we jumped on another 2,000 square feet. We upped our overhead, we upped everything, and I didn't have all the systems in place. So now I'm like trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this work in my clinical model? And that's where literally I just learned how to sleep very little and work and travel and take on as much as I could. And That's kind of my strong suit, I think. It's not necessarily that like I'm the number one guru of functional movement. I think I know a lot, and I think I know a lot to be extremely effective, but there's definitely people out there that know more than me. My strong suit is more of the systems, the communication, and putting it all together.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I mean, I've looked at some of your stuff, and I can tell the listeners definitely Todd's somebody that takes the complex and breaks it down into the simple and easy to understand, which it has to be if anybody's going to get started. I think a lot of people are so nervous about integrating exercise because they just kind of do this thing where they're like, well, I don't understand it, so that's it. And it's like, well,
totally.
Yeah, you didn't understand how to ride a bike the first time somebody handed you one, but you know what? You start out and you tip over a little bit and you skin your knee and then you stand back up and try it. And then all of a sudden you go, I can't imagine never riding a bike because I can cover so much more ground, so much faster. And it's so much more efficient, which is what a practice like yours is if you are willing to put in the work on the front end, it's so much more efficient, whether you look at the profit side or the care that your patients are getting or the community engagement. I mean, you're hitting all those best parts, right?
For sure.
It's incredible.
For sure. And this whole thing opens up so many opportunities as far as our community outreach or AKA our marketing. It's that movement bridges the gap. It's movement is your foot in the door everywhere. Like people get movement, they understand it. They don't really understand subluxation or chiropractic. We totally teach that, but we work our way backwards. We start with movement and then we work our way backwards to posture and then segment, which is what we classify as the chiropractic part of things.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, let's kind of dive in and start at the chiropractic piece. Can you, as simply as possible, take people through your model of how this works? So if somebody right now is already a chiropractor, they already got people coming in the door, they're successful, they got their name out there. Take them through from that to being the perfect kind of hybrid integrated clinic, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, first off, I mean, I am biased, but I feel like our process of our day 1 through day 4 process, because that's what it has evolved to. It's not a 2-day process. It's not a 3-day process. It's a 4-day process because there's so many moving parts, but it works very perfectly. Is first off, what we do is we have someone learn our 4-day process, and they can plug that into pretty much any type of chiropractic practice that they're currently using. And how that works is day 1 is the classic stuff you do with chiropractic. So you're looking at, you doing your exam and your consult and x-ray. And we have some doctors in here who don't do x-ray. And even though I'm very biased and I'm a huge advocate of taking x-ray to look to see what's going on with structure and pathology and disc health and all that, we have some doctors that are very successfully doing this without x-ray. And then the second visit is then where we follow up and we do all the movement assessments. So it's a 2-day process of just gathering information. The third day of this is now going through recommendations based on what the patient indicated to the doctor on the second day as far as what path they wanted to take. And the majority of patients say they want to go through this corrective approach. They want to leave no stone left unturned. And so then on day 3, we're giving them what they asked for. We figure out their game plan, their clinical game plan, their financial situation, all that. And then the 4th day is where we onboard them and we start them. And we also have this full online membership site that we built for our patients called the 12-Week Transformation, which is it's 12 weeks of content with a full exercise library inside of it that parallels what we do clinically in our office. The patient also gets a 12-Week Transformation home journal. So they have a journal where they can track weekly progress, their home exercises, all that stuff. Our staff, our exercise therapists are constantly giving them new exercise progressions based on what us as the doctor dictates initially. And then the patient can use that as a reference, use our online membership site to look up protocols, get help at home when they're outside the clinic. And then that whole process, the 12-Week Transformation, is cloned. And that is something that is shared with members of our program, MoveWell University. And I know that sounds like a lot. That's only a fraction of what this whole thing is. But I know that when we started this, you said, looks like this is going to be like 4 episodes.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you listening, Todd and I were talking and he was going over the conversation essentially was a lot of, and then we built a blah, blah, blah. And then we built a blah, blah, blah. And then we built and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so much. But, I'm glad you're breaking it down. So for those folks out there listening, just starting with those first 4 days, just systematizing or standardizing those first 4 days, you're saying is a kind of cracking open this idea of, because you have to integrate exercise into that. You have to integrate the fact that they're going to be committed to this for a while. Mm-hmm. And then you have to give them support measures like the journal and the online program, right?
Sure. And then also too, so many of these doctors who are doing this already have an existing practice. So then it's, okay, well, how do you introduce these principles to an existing patient you've seen for a year, 5 years, 10 years, and you're saying, look, now I'm doing something new and improved. And so granted, it's not something that belittles or takes away from how you cared for them in the past, but it's just saying these are new things that we've come across, we've implemented, that we're really excited about it. And doing that is doing workshops. You do weekly workshops to teach this stuff. You take your existing patient base and you essentially convert a percentage of them into now a functional movement patient.
Very cool. So you're doing some weekly workshops. I love that, because when people come in and they see your clinic and they see the gym that's integrated in it, they go, oh, this is different. I know you said it was different 100 times to me, but you know what? This really is different. You know, they kind of don't believe that it's going to be any different than any other chiropractor they've ever seen. So now, what do you guys kind of cover at the weekly workshops? What's the intent of those?
Well, hold
on. I know how this is going to end. You've put it together. You've built the system. You have the sheets.
well, it's that in the past we did weekly workshops for new doctors implementing this. We recommend they do weekly workshops, but right now we've done this for so long, we don't have a need to do that because all of our processes are automated, and patients, like every single patient in our clinic, has already had the experience. They already know why we do functional movement. They already know movement is the epicenter of our clinic as far as where we start. And so right now, we don't do weekly workshops because all of my stuff's automated. It's all through our 12-week transformation. And so patients engage from the comfort of their own home because there's so much engagement and so much interaction just on their daily visit for the first couple weeks that kind of takes the place of having to do like a formal workshop at this point.
Now, I want everybody to kind of step back for a second here too, listening. When you enter a clinic like this and you have the journal and you have the online program and they have weekly workshops and they have all the support and they have a long-term plan, the coolest part of this is what you hope happens at that point. And people go, well, you know, I don't know about the price. I don't know if anybody in my area would pay and blah, blah, blah. I always hear that feedback and that kind of pushback. And what I will say is when you go into a place like Todd's clinic in Meridian, Idaho, and you get all those programs, if every patient is given an abundance of stuff, you hope that they say, no, I don't want to pay, and that they go down the street to another chiropractor. Because when they go in there and they don't have any support, any journal, any online program, any automated emails or messages, and nobody is paying attention to them, now they realize that price point is moot. And they're like, oh man, you know, I'm not going to get all this other stuff. And then they realize, oh wow, I was wrong for leaving. And they come back and they become your best client. That's if they leave. Now, most of the time I'm going to guess they don't leave, but you hope they go to another place that shows just how drastically different yours is.
Sure.
And it's like, and then they go, oh my God,
and
I didn't realize I was in the best one in the world.
Well, and honestly, the deal is this. We are not everything to everyone, and we know that certain people that come into our clinic are not the best fit for how we practice and our model. But I'll tell you that it's actually a much smaller percentage than a lot of people would think. Most people do want this. Most people may not understand why they want or need this, but they see that throughout this process. So throughout this 4-day process, that's their ability to be coached and inspired so that we can literally just give them what they want and need. But granted, there's some people that come in, they say, hey, you know what? I've been going to a chiropractor for 20 years. I go in, it's a 3-minute appointment, crack my back, make me looser. That's it. And on day one, I do my best to pull that objection out, to handle that, because if that's what they want, I want them to be very clear that's not how we operate. And then at that point, I can let them know, hey, look, our doors are always open to you, but this might not be the kind of relationship that you or I are interested in really starting right now. And that is awesome because honestly, if you can identify someone who is not your target market, who is not your quote unquote avatar, then you just saved yourself and them a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money. Okay.
Yeah. And let's talk lifestyle too. If it's 5:45 and it's your wife's birthday and she said, you got to get home early because we got to be, we got to go out to dinner at 7. Think about the kind of patient that you would be willing to stay just a little bit late for, right?
Yeah.
And and only let them in the door.
For sure.
Or another way is, who would you absolutely tell your secretary, yeah, don't tell them I'm gone for the day. I'm not going to help, because what you're saying there is that person doesn't match my core values or my beliefs. Well, in a clinic like Todd, what he's saying is he's got so much confidence in his systems. He can say no to as many people, not as many people as you want, but you can say no to a lot of people who you just don't want to work with. And that's fine. Like, as a human being, like, there's a certain type of person you like to be around. There's a certain type of religion that, that appeals to you. There's a certain type of quality that you're looking for in a spouse. Like, that's fine.
Right.
And there's no reason your practice can't be like that as well, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, I'll get off the little soapbox there of the existential feelings about your patients, but and you're doing so much right here. Now, let me ask you this, Todd. I'm not a guy. I'm coming out of the background of I went to Southern California University of Health Sciences. A very, I've never been to a Gonstead seminar. I wouldn't say that I'm a straight. I've never been a straight chiropractor, right? So I don't know that world as well. But what would you tell those people that are straight chiropractors? Because they seem to have this idea that adding movement in violates that belief or something like that.
Totally. And that's something that I talk about in my book, MoveWell Secrets, which I'll give a shameless plug, MoveWellSecretsBook.com. You can get it for free. You just pay shipping. But on that book, there's a whole chapter that we do called Why Not FM, like why not functional movement. And so I go through all those objections, and I really try to take it from the standpoint of what you're saying, a straight chiropractor initially who says, by adding movement, I'm violating the whole laws of chiropractic, and I'm doing like what a physical therapist should do or what a personal trainer should do. And my whole response to that is that we have to be the experts in this. We're the ones that understand spinal biomechanics. We're the ones that have all the background in the spine, which is the core center for health and vitality and movement in the entire body. And so you have all these other professionals out there that are attempting to look at movement. And even though they can do a great job, they're not going to do as thorough of a job as a chiropractor because of our training and how we understand the spine. And so if we are rolling the dice and saying, okay, patient, I'm going to check you and adjust you, and that's my role. And then all this other movement stuff that, yeah, like I acknowledge it's important. Go to a physical therapist, go to a personal trainer. Who knows what they're going to get? Because so many physical therapists out there, and it's not knocking PTs. I got a lot of great buddies that are PTs. I've met a lot of great ones through a lot of the training I've done over the years, is that they will be the first to admit the majority of PTs are doing 1980s PT exercise. They're not doing movement pattern stuff. They're doing isolation. They end it after 4 to 6 weeks. All the care is being dictated by a referring medical doctor. They are pawns in the system. That's most PTs. Okay, so if you're a PT listening to this, I'm sorry to say that, but that's the majority of what we see here. Now, granted, there's some awesome ones too, but most of them are stuck in that system. It's a broken model. From a fitness professional standpoint, personal trainers, now you're sending them to a personal trainer that has a weekend of training and movement, and they take their client in, and if they're going to do any assessment at all, they might just do like an overhead deep squat, and then they base everything off of that, which is like the most complex triple flexion movement. Now you're going to throw everyone at the most complex thing versus like, what's the cervical pattern? What's the shoulder pattern? What's the flexion? You know what I'm saying? So it's so flawed to think that you can outsource this and that your patient's going to get quality care. On the flip side, if you are a chiropractor that really wants to do the best for your patient, then you have to take over this component. That's my opinion. That's my soapbox is like all of these chiropractors who were trained just like I was, even going to Gonstead seminars, as specific and as awesome Gonstead chiropractic is, and as much as you can help transform someone's life, don't tell me that by adjusting someone's fifth lumbar, you're going to teach them how to hip hinge. Okay.
Right.
Because and now that person, they're a mom, they're picking up their kid, they're going to a gym, freaking getting trained in a group class of a bunch of people that know nothing. And they're doing repetitive lumbar flexion with a weak, unengaged core and no glute activation, and they're destroying themselves. And they come into you going, I don't know what's going on. I follow your advice and I'm getting adjusted. It's just not helping me. And now guess what? You're not the good guy anymore. You're I went to a chiropractor and it didn't work.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, it doesn't feel great as a chiro to be in that situation either, because you feel like, man, I'm doing everything I've been trained to do. Why is it not working?
Totally.
I've been in that situation a couple times clinically, and it just sucks. It feels bad. So I love the fact that you're preaching that. And my personal opinion is if you a couple things here. If you take your mom and you said, hey, Mom, would you rather go to this chiropractor, a totally separate physical therapist, and a totally separate gym? Or would you like the same crew to be running all those aspects for you? She'd probably be like, oh, man, it'd be great to go to one place and have everybody on the same team and understand me. Right? Like, who wouldn't want that?
And like that whole component is exactly how we even explain this to a patient on the third day when we're going through their financial, because, having this level of care has more value. It is going to cost more, but at the end of the day, I feel like how we work, how we price this, there's so much more value in what we give someone than what they're paying in exchange as far as in the form of money, that they see it as a no-brainer. And then that's why we have such a high conversion rate. That's why so many of our patients that go through this process say, this is what I look for. This is what I've been waiting for. Yes, I'm doing it. And they find a way.
Yeah. And I'll run this idea by everybody listening to, I interviewed a guy, Anthony Renna, and he brought up a great point about this point. If you charge somebody a little, if you charge them too little, if you have this easy financial conversation, you charge them too little. The problem is a few times down when you realize, man, I'm really not making that much money, or I can't pay for this, I can't pay for that. You start to build a little resent towards them, right? For sure. On the flip side, when you have maybe a little bit difficult or a little bit of friction in your financial conversation, I say, Todd, I know you're thinking that this is going to just be insurance, but I'm going to have to charge you another $6,000. And I have some angst about asking for $6,000. As soon as they pay it, you as a doctor, you step up in a big way, as do your employees, as do your trainers, as do everybody. And they put on their shirt a little bit better that day. They make sure that there's no wrinkles. You make sure that the gym is clean. You hand them water when they walk in. So not only are they stepping up to the plate by paying, but you're stepping up as a better professional when you demand a higher rate. If I went into any personal trainer, I said, what do you charge? And they said $60. I said, all right, I'm going to give you $120 an hour. But I just want you to train me the best I can. You can bet your bottom dollar that they are going to step up to the plate in a big way, right? Sure.
Yeah. And that is something that, looking at how I practice now compared to how I used to practice, I feel like I have such a higher level of responsibility to my patients, in that their care has to be managed so well. There's so many moving parts to it. And so now, versus before when I was just adjusting people. And this is not to take away from how awesome chiropractic and the adjustment is. So please, for everyone listening to that, don't get me wrong. I mean,
it's incredibly powerful.
And I mean, we promote chiropractic, we promote the adjustment, we promote that to an extreme. However, before, I felt like a patient could come in, I could work on them. And, I had 10 people in the waiting room. I was scheduled 4 people every 15 minutes, sometimes 5. And patients would ask me a question. They'd say, hey, Dr. Todd, I got this problem with my shoulder. I have this clicking in my hip. And instead of me being able to actually send them over to my exercise department, do an assessment, do all the stuff that I can do now, I'd be like, yeah, let me see if I can adjust your SI joint, and then see you later, bye. And then they're out. And then in hindsight, especially now, knowing what I know now, I know I was not addressing their problem at all. And they left, and then they probably fell out of care because I wasn't addressing their concern. And so ultimately, I had very little responsibility as far as a case manager, or what I would say as a doctor. That's what we do as a chiropractor, as a doctor, is that we're supposed to manage someone's overall care. Now I feel like I have a much higher level of responsibility, but what does that mean? That means more time and energy on my point, and more expertise goes into that. And so there's absolutely a higher value. And so you have to get reimbursed more per visit, and that's okay. And patients get it. And I prefer to practice like that.
Are you a chiropractor or physical therapist working long hours, worrying about lower repayments and missing out on quality time with your family? You can double your income without working more hours by adding a gym to your practice. Clinic Gym Hybrid Solutions has a step-by-step guide that dramatically simplifies and speeds up the addition of a fitness center and its monthly recurring revenue. In just 6 months, you can be on your way to freedom. Visit clinicgymhybrid.com today for a free downloadable PDF and complimentary consultation to get you started. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.
Not to beat up PTs, I teach for SFMA and I work with PTs all the time. And I think they're helping a lot of people. But man, sometimes you walk into a PT clinic and it's, I remember in Psychology 101, I learned the term learned helplessness. Like when you go into a McDonald's, the person at the counter knows that you're not expecting much, so they're not going to serve you much, so you're not going to pay much, and we're not ever going to be like wildly happy with each other. Sometimes when you go into these PT departments and it's like they can't give the care they want because the doctor doesn't quote unquote understand them. The patient's not getting highest level of care, and so they're not feeling that much better. They're not passionate about what they do. So then the patient is not passionate about their exercises, therefore they don't do them and they forget to do them, and then they decide, I'll just take some painkillers, and it's just this cycle that just degrades over time.
Wow.
Whereas when you're saying case manager, like those are two words that are like sound cold because we're programmed for that, but really what you're saying is like a really good coach or a really good coordinator.
Totally.
Like what's that person I hired? A wedding coordinator. They're excited. Hey, have you done this? Have you done that? Did you get your picture over here? Blah, blah, blah. And it's an experience.
Totally. And like something, for example, that we just did in our clinic. So like a big way that we organize how we take people through a progression of functional movement is we have this belt system of functional movement. So like talking about how we engage our patients, once they start corrective exercise and functional movement, they get a wristband or a belt. They start at a white belt. And so on that, because our clinic's called Gonstead Spine and Wellness, it says Gonstead Strong. And then on the other side, it says Results Matter Most. And it has the logo for our 12-week transformation program and the logo for our clinic. And we have this from white all the way to black belt. And then up on our wall in our exercise area, we have actual like martial arts belts that are tied and they're hung on the wall. And then next to that, we have every single one of our patients, first name, last initial, and they're on a laminated piece and it's Velcroed up next to the belt. And so someone comes in and on their first visit in the exercise, how cool do you think it is when you say, all right, you're coming back here, we're getting started. You see your name up on the wall. That's you, your white belt. Here's your white belt. Congratulations. Let's get started. The goal is to get you to a yellow belt. And
dude, I love this. I love this for so many reasons because, everybody talks about, my patients aren't doing their homework. They're not compliant, blah, blah. Think about the compliance at a karate studio. My son's taking Taekwondo. Nobody walks in. You give them a white belt and they go, all right, I'm just going to stay here until I get a green belt and then I'm out.
Right.
Now everybody goes, well, how long does it take to get to a black belt? You go, well, if you work hard, 2 years. If you don't work hard, 10.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
They kind of program in their mind. And so what you're saying is nobody's walking in there going, I just want to do base level rehab and just get out of pain because you can do so much more for them. This is awesome, man. I didn't even know you did this, Todd. This is incredible. This is why I want to have 19 interviews with you moving forward. As long as the bandwidth can handle my excitement, this is awesome. So how many belt levels are there?
6. We have 6 belt levels, and starting from green belt up, I believe, a big part of what we incorporate. I'm also an instructor for Strong First.
Oh, sweet.
And so,
love it.
And one of my best friends, I don't know if you know a lot about Strong First, sounds like you probably do, but one of my best friends is Czar Horton, who is there, it goes Pavel, Brett Jones, Czar Horton. And so Czar is a master kettlebell instructor. He's the guy that kind of helps lead the crew. He's been involved in Russian kettlebells almost longer than like anyone else. And
there's a name for it, right? Czar Horton. It's like this guy's been in Russian kettlebells since before he was conceived, I think.
Right. And so Czar is the guy, I've known him since New Mexico. He's got a big kettlebell gym in New Mexico called Fire Bells because he's also a firefighter paramedic. He's 50 years old, looks like he's 30. He's like this genetic freak.
You throw rocks at him, the rocks break, right?
They do. They do. He is, and so he's actually come out here to Idaho and taught some seminars for us. And he was just out here about a month ago, and we did like a level 2 Strong First kind of type of stuff. So we went through, like all the advanced stuff with kettlebells. But Czar's the guy that got me involved in kettlebells, even after years of me bodybuilding, not caring about functional movement or kettlebells. He was doing kettlebells, shredded, great shape. I finally came around because I was exposed to kettlebells now through functional movement stuff, right? Like I'm seeing Brett Jones talking about it. And so then I'm like, maybe Czar wasn't crazy after all. And I called up Czar, and he and I like reunited our friendship, and then he's been involved. And so even so, in our 12-week transformation, our goal we have for our patients is for them to learn what's called the functional 4, which is a kettlebell deadlift, swing, goblet squat, and a get up. And so a big part of our belt system is once you get to a certain belt, now it's based on kettlebell proficiency.
Wow, that's incredible. And for those of you going, if you truly believe that the body can heal itself, have them go through 12 weeks where it ends with the kettlebell, and tell me how much better that shoulder is than if you had not done some strength-based exercise. If you think the body can heal its spine, throw a kettlebell on there and do a little cast iron supplementation, and you'll be amazed at what you think the body is capable of. I mean, healing becomes a white belt version of this, right? But improvement at the end there has got to be incredible. And you truly see people flourish, and they're building up a bulletproof body against future injury.
For sure.
Yep.
It's that strength and power has to be a goal for this. Strength, power, fitness has to be this end goal. And so even for patients that come in that have never exercised a day in their life, for whatever reason, and I mean, like, I know what reason, it's very calculated, but our system gets them there. Our system motivates them and coaches them, helps them find that inspiration within themselves to actually do something maybe they've never done before, which is start to do some level of exercise. We have patients who come in, which is so cool, and they say, hey, Dr. Todd, I just ordered 2 kettlebells for home. And so now their home rehab is all the stuff we've taught them, but now they're actually practicing the stuff that we've meticulously
I don't
coached them
know
on.
your experience in this, but tell me, when you say that they order the kettlebells at home, in our practice, the most surprising thing was that the people that would actually just fall in love with the kettlebell and they would order them for home were not the big, ex-bodybuilder, CrossFit, all that. Like they don't need it. It's the, I don't want to say like kind of frail, like a little skinny fat woman that's like hasn't really ever lifted because she's always been scared of it. And you just give her that confidence and she's like, I really like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that. And a lot of times it's like we had a 52-year-old woman who just nobody had ever taught her how to lift. She starts lifting and she goes, I really enjoy this. This is awesome. I got some kettlebells for the house.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's hilarious though.
And it's,
yeah. Go ahead.
And I mean, like on a future interview that we do, we should just talk all about kettlebells, because I could talk about kettlebells for hours, because I absolutely love kettlebells in that it's such a low tech piece of equipment. You can do so much with it.
Yeah, the rule. There's nobody that is involved in kettlebells that won't talk about them forever. It's like if you've watched all of Game of Thrones, you will never not mention Game of Thrones, right? Like you have to tell everybody about it. So
that's funny.
That's awesome. Well, listen, we only got a couple minutes left. Would you mind kind of giving some inspiration to our listeners about changing their model? I mean, it's real easy to get that kind of classic clinic. Things are going well, so it's like, why would I ever change this? But let me talk about this. Forget the money, forget the patients, forget all that. I know that you have a team. You keep saying we. Can you kind of give them some inspiration about how much of this can be delegated to a well-trained staff member? Because I talk about this all the time, but how much can be delegated to a well-trained staff member, and maybe what that staff member transforms into, when they empower, and what the patient transforms by working with that staff member into?
Sure. So, I think this is a timely thing to answer, because just last week, our entire team, and I was kind of amazed when I sent out all the emails for all of us to get on board with this, is that we have 18 people on our team. Okay. So there's 18 people, and that's not all physical people in the clinic. We have some people that work remotely on other projects, but 18 people. And we're all going through our own 12-week transformation together as a team. So all of us restarted. We restarted a couple days ago on Sunday night. And so that means that we now set our own goals. We have fitness, we have health goals, we have all this stuff. And every Friday, what I'm doing now with my team is we're doing kettlebell training as a team. So last Friday was the first one. We have people at different skill levels. Some of us are exercise therapists. They know a ton. Our front desk people maybe aren't all that great at deadlifting. And so we all get together. We spend an hour going over hip hinging and deadlift and breathing and glute activation, all that stuff. And then this Friday, we're going to go through and we're going to try to progress to a swing for those who are appropriate to do so. They've had homework that they've done in between. So where I'm going with this is that when you get your team on board and you're congruent and you're consistent and your team is actually going through the care, they're actually doing the home care, they're living it themselves, it's that things just transform. Like a switch goes off that you can never fake, and you can never train really any other way, like other than having your team do what you do and having you as the doctor do what you do. So some of you who are listening to this might be a chiropractor who doesn't exercise. And so I would say that's one thing that you need to change, because it's almost like practice what you preach, or at least start preaching better and then start practicing what you preach. But I have it's like that quote, what is it? Say nothing, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. It's that I am very opinionated. I know that. I just took the Tony Robbins disc test. I'm a high D, okay, which means I'm a driver. And that's just how I'm wired. So what I'm saying, this is the world according to me. I get it. But after doing this for 15 years, almost 16, I would say incorporate exercise, do this for the patient, do this for having an awesome clinical model, do it for the chiropractic profession, and also do it because, like, from a business standpoint, it makes way, way, way more sense too. I mean, you can't ignore that component of it. So those are my closing words, I guess.
Which means the way you show up to your family, the way you show up to your patients, the way you show up to yourself changes, because you're not scared and worried and looking at where's that next patient going to come from. Like, when the business runs smoothly like that, you truly have the freedom to be that person that you truly want to be to everybody, yep. the teacher at your kid's school, everyone.
Yep, totally. So, absolutely.
Now, with your clinic, the last question I'll ask is, with your clinic, I always tell people one of the reasons to integrate this and empower these, exercise therapists and whatnot is the flu test, I call it. So if, you go home and on Sunday you realize that you're getting the flu, you wake up Monday morning, you're vomiting, you're doing all that, you can't go to work for at least until Wednesday, right? How much of your clinic would be totally running normally without your presence there? You get what I'm saying? 80% of it, 90% of it, would they even know that you were gone?
I think at this point, 95% of it. Because it is so systematized. We've departmentalized our clinic. We have different departments. There's so many checks and balances here. It's just how my brain operates, how it works. I can't do it any other way. And
right. But most clinics, it's the chiro. It's 100% relying on that. If he can't show up, may as well close the doors.
Yeah. Right. And for years I practiced like that, and no longer.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, Todd. You are living the dream, creating the dream, building the dream, systematizing the dream. For gosh sakes, you have done amazing things. Can you tell people the best way to get an understanding of this and get involved in your program?
Yeah, on a side note, something I've learned a whole lot of and I enjoy doing. I do lots of video and content creation, video editing. We build some really cool stuff online to help engage and share all this information. And so I would say go to MoveWellSecretsBook.com, MoveWellSecretsBook.com. You can get our book for free. You pay shipping, and it takes you through a process online, and you get access to a bunch of free information. You can go to MoveWellUniversity.com, and that's like our hub, our portal. We have a podcast called the MoveWell Podcast. We got lots of stuff out there. But I would say grab the book, MoveWellSecretsBook.com. That's a great place to start. And you can find my contact information in there. And I take emails all day long, every day. And honestly, man, the coolest part of this whole process is the feedback I get from these chiropractors who send me an email, who say, hey, I got your book. I read it in one night and it totally inspired me to do XYZ. I'm revamping everything. Thank you so much. And that's what's been really rewarding in this whole process.
It's that piece in the Matrix where he stops and he sees the numbers going down the screen. You get him to finally break out of the Matrix of, I hate, and I am glad you're empowering all these people out of this. And I got to get up on the soapbox again. I hate chiropractors that just accept what insurance companies pay them and don't think that there's anything else out there. They don't think there's exercise out there. They don't think that they can own a gym. They don't think any of that. I'm like, you have this license you worked your ass off for. maximize it. Use it to its fullest ability. And that's what Todd is doing here. The guy, oh my God, like it just drives me nuts because I'm like, as soon as you devalue yourself and you accept that, you are devaluing me because we share the same license. So it drives me nuts. But I'm glad that you wrote the book and you're empowering people to break out of the matrix and see what else is out there. So seriously, I wish there was a better set of words I could say now, Todd, but thank you. This was impactful. I think you're saving the profession. You're saving the world. And I can't thank you enough. I definitely want to have you back on.
Awesome, man.
Sound good?
Thank you so much. Yep. Thanks for hooking up.
All right. Well, thank you very much. On behalf of Dr. Todd Pickman, this is Dr. Josh Satterley saying, go out there, maximize your license, and live the life that you dreamt of. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Clinic Gym Radio. If you're ready to double your profit without working longer hours, please visit clinicgymhybrid.com and find out how easy it is to get started on your path to freedom. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.